Last time, I welded in supports to accommodate the newly finished rear subframe and differential. Now I can move on to the rest of the rear end so I can reassemble the whole package. The trailing and control arms need new bushings all around as well as some reconditioning. So, let's get started. First, the trailing arm bracket comes off to expose the bushing. We're going to remove these just like the subframe bushings by torching, then hammering them. Next, the wheel speed sensor came out to get it out of the way. I made another valiant attempt at removing the axle, this time with a 3-jaw puller that wasn't bent. Eventually, I gave up and decided the axle would stay in. Nothing was going easy. The brake shield was impossible to get off thanks to some very short bolts that are hard to get a hold of with all this rust. A hammer did the trick and eventually it all came out. Here's one of those bolts. As you can see, they're inconveniently short. Next, it was time to remove the upper and lower control arm bushings. I made do with this flywheel puller and a socket that fits just right over the bushing. The whole thing liked to fall off pretty easily. Next time, I'll be investing in a proper bearing puller set. The bottom bushings were almost the same, but just as difficult. I took out the remnants of the parking brake cable and sleeve to get them out of the way. I won't be reinstalling the parking brake since it's not necessary. Next, I removed all the loose rust and brushed on some rust converter. After it dried, it looked so much better and I could move on to installing the new bushings. This is the new lower joint. This is the same as the OEM upper joint. It's also a spherical one. OEM lowers in this car are not spherical, so this is actually an upgrade, same as what the M3 came with. I realized I didn't even need a puller to install the new bushings. A 36mm socket and a hammer did just fine without damaging the boots. This is an OEM upper bearing, which is actually already a spherical one. So, just doing OEM for the upper joint. Lastly, I installed the trailing arm bushings. These are thicker on one side, which I put on the inboard side. This is to allow for more toe and adjustment due to the lower ride height I would likely be running. And then lastly, we've got these two shims that go on the side here, and then hopefully this should fit, which it does. Oh, that's tight. These trailing arm bolts got torqued to 80 foot-pounds and are now good to go. For the inner control arm bushings, I attempted to hammer them out just like the trailing arm bushings. This only worked for one control arm. For the other, I had to cut the bushing, which was a headache. To finish, I installed Powerflex bushings. These were simple to install since they're a split bushing with a metal sleeve. after they got greased up, I was officially done with the rear suspension bushings. In the next part, I'll reinstall everything with some new lower control arms. As always, thanks for watching, feel free to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again for the next video.